Mercury retrograde completes on Friday, June 3rd, and the day after we get Saturn retrograde. This is actually a pretty common retrograde, happens every year for about 4.5 months, so don't be scared. Let's talk about it in depth and break it down for all 12 signs. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive readings. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe, leave me a comment or a like. I truly appreciate all of the support I get from you guys. And if you'd like to work with me, there are links down below. You can also follow me at Anastasia Does Astrology on Instagram and TikTok. I'm very active on both of those platforms. So let's talk about Saturn going retrograde. It starts at 5:47 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, June 4th, and goes until October 23rd. Dependent on where you are, if you are in the States, but not Eastern time zone, anywhere more west, it will be October 22nd. But basically, Saturn is the Lord of Karma. Saturn is the last visible planet, right? Uranus, Neptune, Pluto are out there, but we cannot see them with the naked eye. And so Saturn oftentimes represents those boundaries, right? It's the last visible planet, so it's the boundary that we cannot cross. So Saturn is karma, it's the results of your actions, and it's those walls, long-lasting structures. Saturn gets a lot of bad rap. People think of Saturn as like this mean, harsh planet. Well, in reality, the walls that Saturn built, yes, they can tell us, they can block us from reaching something that we really think we need. Well, in reality, maybe we don't. But the walls that Saturn built also can protect us from the dangers outside, from the wrong choices. So it's all in the eye of the beholder, right? Depends on how you look at it. I personally really like Saturn, especially the older I got. Well, I actually started like deeply learning astrology after my Saturn return. So in a way, Saturn was responsible for my awakening. And that tends to happen a lot of times. Like Saturn might challenge you. It might teach you a tough lesson, but that lesson will help you get closer to your authentic self. Saturn is currently in Aquarius, the sign of community, the sign of innovation and change. And so Saturn has been in Aquarius, started for a little bit in 2020 as the pandemic started, making us examine all the structures, right? Like making us go and start working from home and explore that. And then fully Saturn ingressed into Aquarius in late December 2020 and stays in Aquarius until March 2023. So on a societal level, we are called to examine our laws and our structures and things that may be outdated, right? Like the gun laws in the States, the questions about abortion, right? The entire system and the flaws that it's full of, right? Like when people who don't have the uterus are making a decision about what women should do with their uterus. So all of that and the protests and people kind of expressing themselves feels very Aquarian. And right now with Saturn going retrograde on a collective level, this might be actually the time when we encounter, I mean, we're already dealing with all these tough topics, but like when Saturn is retrograde, there might be more flaws revealed in the system, deeper understanding, slow change, not necessarily. It's like, you know, this period until October 22nd, 23rd is not necessarily going to be like drastic change, but we are slowly changing things, hopefully, right? Like everybody would like to believe that the gun situation and the gun situation in the States specifically and the abortion laws in the States will, like things will get better. So on a personal level, Saturn going direct, the last 6 months roughly, or even 8 months, you may have been building structures in your life. Maybe you've been investing time into something. Maybe you've put up healthier boundaries with your parents. Maybe you've gotten more responsibilities at your job. There could have been new things, right? Like maybe you started a home renovation project for Scorpio risings. Maybe you've been kind of planning to have a kid and investing a lot of energy into that for Libra risings for some, or working on a creative project. And right now when Saturn goes retrograde, will be looking at the structures you have built. Maybe there's going to be some flaws in those structures. Maybe the new information that you have gotten with Mercury retrograde or with other things happening in your life require you to make changes. So Saturn builds long-lasting things and Saturn moves slowly. So Saturn can be, or Saturnian vibes can be compared to like a construction site. And when Saturn goes retrograde, the supplies don't get delivered. You realize that you don't have enough stuff to finish building, or maybe you realize that there is, not enough bricks in the walls, or you have forgotten something that now requires your attention. So looking at the structures you have built, seeing the holes, and recommitting to the work. It's not the time when, Mercury retrograde, we are encouraged to do a lot of introspective work and then take action. With Saturn retrograde, there's definitely also, similarly to that, a lot of introspective work, but also you will encounter more no's, more people saying no to you, more things like not yet, not quite. So, and the way you work with Saturn is that you continue working. You don't push extra hard, but you take a step back, revisit, rewrite, redo, and try again. And just keep going the entire time, but like going bit by bit. Saturn, during its retrograde, opposes the Sun. So that is one of the important dates. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But what's happening, Saturn and the Sun are very different energies, right? Like they each rule signs opposite one another. The Sun rules Leo, bright, personal, expressive, and Saturn rules Aquarius, detached, rational, more mind-driven. And so Sun, being that light, and your ego and your goals and your desires will get tested by Saturn. So you may feel like, once again, those like blockages and things, less freedom to do what you want to do, and the need to listen to Saturn perhaps a little bit. Sun doesn't like listening to Saturn because Sun just wants to shine and do whatever Sun wants to do. But Saturn has valuable lessons to offer. So we'll have to be mindful of that. Looking at the fears, looking at things that no longer serve you is a big theme of Saturn retrograde. What are you afraid of? What is something that isn't necessary anymore? How are you standing in your own way? And how can you take responsibility, right? Like Saturn is duty, responsibility. So take responsibility for your own life. Take responsibility for your procrastination, and maybe make a plan how you can step by step move towards what you want to reach. Saying no, like I said, you may hear more no's coming your way, but it can also be you saying no to certain things, you saying no to a relationship that isn't healthy, you saying no to a habit that is not healthy. And putting better boundaries in place is also part. That's also, I guess, like part of saying no. You're sort of like, if you've been feeling in your friendships that people are taking advantage of you, it doesn't mean you have to cut people off, but saying no, this is not the way I want to be treated, is one of the manifestations of Saturn. And finally, it's also the time to make commitments. So Saturn retrograde is not just things falling apart, things not working. It's the time when you, through difficulty, through facing frustrating events, realize what's worth investing into and what's not. So you may commit to a relationship and you may let go something that doesn't serve you anymore. This is the most important for people with planets, and that includes your ascendant, your midheaven, descendant, IC, in 18 to 25 degrees fixed signs: Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. So take a look at your chart, see if you have any planets between 18 and 25 degrees, and know that most likely the progress you have been making connected to those planets will need to be redone, revisited, and looked at differently or looked at again. A few dates to watch in this longer cycle. One is coming up pretty quickly, June 18th. Saturn will square Venus, or rather Venus will square Saturn, because Venus moves faster than Saturn does. And this is, there's going to be another video I make about Venus conjoining Uranus, but the story in June is that romantically we seek freedom, we seek to be able to do what we want to do. We may have unique desires, and there might be a little bit of like uncompromising energy. And then on June 18th, Venus squares off with Saturn, and your desires will get tested. You may realize that you've been overindulging. You may realize that your goals don't connect with the goals of the relationship. And of course, there's going to be some challenges connected to relationships and your values and your desires. Once again, Venus square Saturn can be the time of recommitting to something where you realize we need to have this tough conversation, and clearing the air brings you closer. But if something feels not authentic, that might be the time when that ends. On July 31st, Mercury will oppose Saturn, which can create tensions in our communication. Harder to express yourself, harder to say what you want to say. There might be people trying to impose their will on you, and you will likely need to rethink the way you communicate. On August 7th, Saturn will oppose Mars in Leo. So that, and like it kind of extends into August 14th. So August 7th, 14th, we get Mars opposite Saturn. That's always, that's a lot of frustration, because whatever you want to go, Saturn is literally being like, nope, not right now. You cannot get it. Remember that Saturn doesn't, almost never Saturn just directly say no, never. Saturn likely says not yet. So you have to be patient. And yeah, like, so there will be tensions, delays, blocks that are standing in your path, and Saturn will encourage you to come up with an alternative plan, maybe sacrifice something, right? Let's say you want to start a business, but that requires you to sacrifice some of your fun, sacrifice some of your plans to go on vacation maybe, or date actively. So perhaps you are choosing something for now and focusing on that, and that requires sacrifice. And finally, on October 13th, actually is a more lovelier transit. Venus will be in Libra, another sign Venus rules, and it will form a trine to Saturn, which is like you've been doing all the work, this is your exam, and you get an A. So there's a lovely possibility with Venus trining Saturn, especially when it comes to art, relationships, making commitments, seeing recognition for all the work you've put in. So let's take a quick look at all 12 rising signs. I'm not gonna probably hang on all of them for too long, but just some topics that can be significant, right? So for Aries rising, Saturn will retrograde through your 11th house. And 11th house deals with your hopes and dreams and plans for the future. And for some of you, with all of the action in Taurus in your second house, maybe you've been coming up with new money-making ideas, with new business ideas, like revising how you want to make money, how you want to be seen. And Saturn retrograde will likely bring challenges to that. There might also be a sense of like, how do my goals connect with the outside world? Perhaps outside world disapproves. Maybe there's people out there who don't appreciate what you're doing, or act or try to discourage you. So there might be a sense of like frustration and blocks to some of your hopes and wishes, and needing to figure out what's worth and what's not worth committing to. It's also the place of friendships, and so questions of who your true friends are, and I actually have a friend who's an Aries rising, and I believe last year when Saturn was retrograde, she ended up letting go of a friendship. So only people who are not supportive likely will, you will possibly part your ways with them because you're trying to surround yourself with people who are more authentic to you. A friend might be going through frustration, and any group projects, anywhere you were planning to put your resources together with others, there might be issues there. Let's say you represent a group and you're like raising money for something, you may encounter a delay or a difficulty asking you to work differently, to look at things differently. For Taurus rising, Saturn retrogrades in your 10th house. So this deals with work, status, reputation, career. And Taurus risings have been working really hard. Be that some of you starting businesses, some of you redefining who you are, starting new careers, going back to school. So now with Saturn being retrograde in your 10th house, you may encounter an authority figure, like a parent, let's say, if you're younger, who disapproves of who you want to be. And you may literally have to like prove yourself to this parent. Or it could be a boss. It could be just some duty you have to people, like, professional duties, duties to your family, things that require attention before you can pursue things that you feel passionate about. So be ready possibly for some kind of like delays to your professional aspirations. And maybe you've pressed the gas pedal and you've moved ahead with your plans, but now you will have to step back and review, revise, redo. Gemini rising will have Saturn retrograding in the 9th house. And for Gemini risings, this affects the topics of faith and belief. So you might be questioning certain things when it comes to your place in the world and your religion or your ideas of the world, like including including where do you fit in with all of that. There might be a sense of questioning your views. Educational difficulties, educational delays. Maybe you were applying for college, but now you have to reapply or you have to submit some paperwork that you didn't know you needed to submit, and that creates more hustle and kind of struggling. It's also the house of legal matters. So if you are currently dealing with any visa applications, or you're involved in any legal cases, there might be delays there. There might be more frustration possibly, or once again, like a need to recommit. There might be frustration, delays, endings in connection with overseas trips. Like maybe you're traveling somewhere and you're not traveling for fun, right? Like there might be a sense that you have to travel to a faraway place and take care of something that is not particularly exciting for you. So be on the lookout for all of these like legal, publishing, travel, education matters that you have to approach with patience and care. For Cancer rising, Saturn retrogrades through the 8th house, and this is the money and resources that you share with other people, as well as agreements you have with other people. So prepare for some, it's interesting, my best friend is a Cancer rising, and I've been seeing her over the course of the last like year and a half or almost 2 years trying to detangle herself from a commitment or relationship. Like, there's finances involved, and it seems like it kind of keeps pulling her back, and there's constantly new challenges. Like let's say there's a financial difficulty, right? And something happens that now puts you in a position of like, well, do you solve it or do you get more in debt? Do you approach things differently, or do you get like a loan while you already are struggling financially? Or maybe you negotiate and find a way to make a payment plan and like pay things slowly. So topics of shared resources, debts, taxes might be significant. Like once again, you are you are on this path with Saturn in the 8th house of freeing yourself from the money that you owe to someone, or the money that is owed to you. You're sort of trying to detangle from that commitment, right? From that engagement. And it will require a lot of careful attention, a lot of fine-tooth combing. Dealing with the matters related to inheritance, dealing with any investments will be a possibility, and it's likely that you may experience frustration and resources may not be quite easily available to you. Or if they are, you will have to work really hard to get them. Taxes, credits, inheritance, the things I have already mentioned, just watch out for those kind of things. And psychologically, 8th house deals with transformations. That's why, like, you know, debts are there, taxes are there, like things you have to like pay and release. So transforming your dynamics, learning to be more honest in relationships and more expressive, so you create a more fair dynamic, is a part of this too. For Leo rising, Saturn transits retrograde through your 7th house. So relationship matters. If you have been struggling, if you have felt unsupported, or you have felt like you're struggling to communicate, or maybe actually you felt like you were making progress with your partner and things started to look like you're finally understanding each other, now something else might present yourself where you have to overcome another hurdle together. And it's not necessarily your relationship. Sometimes that might mean that you have to deal with your living situation together, or there's some other frustration that you are working through with your partner. Of course, 7th house represents other people, so sometimes Saturn retrograde might not be affecting you as much as it is affecting your partner, and maybe certain difficulties, blockages, delays connected to your business will also need to be addressed. For Virgo rising, Saturn will retrograde in your 6th house. How has your health been, Virgo risings? If you feel like you've been dealing with any health matters and you've overcome the difficulty, Saturn will check that. Saturn will, let's say you dealt with like back problems and you did like physical therapy, and then you started doing yoga, and now your back is fine and you sort of like abandoned that yoga. Saturn going retrograde might remind you to like still take good care of yourself. Saturn retrograde in the 6th house is very much like a testing time for your health, especially bones, teeth, like anything Saturn rules, those kind of things. So take care of your health. Start before Saturn knocks on your door. You want to be ready. Professional matters may need attention. There might be frustrations with people that you're working with, certain paperwork, people maybe not doing their job, testing your ability to communicate and deal with those people. Your diet will come for review. Your pets, maybe you'll have to take care of a pet. And yeah, like diet, exercise, fitness, and there just might be more problems to solve, especially like, you know, when it comes to reaching your goals. For Libra rising, Saturn will retrograde in your 5th house, and 5th house deals with romance, creativity, fun, sex, children. So Saturn retrograde in the house of fun. Sometimes, just in general, I feel like Saturn being in the 5th house for these 2 years until March 2023 is not the most amount of fun, but Saturn is teaching you, right? Like, so there might be delays and things you have to overcome related to your kids, creative matters, right? Like Uranus is in your 8th house, Saturn is in the 5th. Are you starting some kind of relationship, some kind of partnership with other people? And you need to make a plan. You need to make a plan and you need to figure out, it's basically like very serious approach to fun and very serious approach to creativity. Like you have to put new structures in place. You have to write a contract. Let's say you're joining forces with someone on a creative project, but you need to have a contract so you know what your responsibilities are, what their responsibilities are. You are like encouraged to be very careful with the things you pursue and commitments you get into, relationships you get into. Children matters, right? Like if a kid is going to kindergarten and you were thinking they will go to one, but they don't go to that one, and now you have to pivot and figure it out on the fly. Sexual matters. How do you approach sex? Do you have a healthy attitude towards it? So, and even romance in your relationship. Like you may feel when Saturn is retrograde that there's not a lot of romance and you have to work extra hard to bring it into your life. So prioritizing things that you enjoy doing and finding time for those things could be significant. For Scorpio rising, Saturn is retrograding in your 4th house. So matters related to home and family will become more shaky and will require your attention. So home matters, right? Like, are you selling your home? Are you upgrading your home? Are you doing some kind of renovation project? So if you are, maybe now is when things slow down and when it becomes less of a smooth sailing, requiring you to adapt and make choices. And, there's going to be very strong kind of like opposition or push and pull between your professional goals and your family and your home matters. So at this point might be the point when construction and home matters become more frustrating, and you are encouraged to approach things with patience and keep working, right? Like if your construction project slows down, doesn't mean you need to be like, whatever, it's over, but maybe approach things differently, maybe become more strategic about it. Parents, like there might be more boundaries you need to put up with parents and your family. There might be certain family karma you have to address, certain entanglements and frustrations and past lessons that you haven't looked at, because 4th house is not just home and family, it's also all the baggage that we carry and the things that we may have absorbed from our parents. So expect, frustrations and expect a need to look closer at those matters. For Sagittarius rising, Saturn is retrograding in your 3rd house, encouraging you to examine the rigidity in your thinking and your skills, your hobbies, and your schedule. So of course, Saturn goes retrograde and in the house of daily life and technology and communication and siblings, and you can experience frustrations in those areas. Like maybe your schedule feels too overwhelming. Maybe you're starting a new job, but you don't quite have the skill set for it, encouraging you to scramble and try to find those skills or work extra hard to learn those skills. Relationships with siblings and neighbors may come up for review, where you will have to address any difficulties. I feel like mainly Saturn retrograde, or just Saturn being in your 3rd house, is like encouraging you to pursue things that you enjoy doing, to get in touch with your skills and things that you're good at, as well as learn to express yourself and maybe be more flexible, right? It's hard because it's Saturn in a fixed sign in the house of communication. But look at where you're standing in your own way. Look at where your thoughts and your goals and your thinking, like even if it's as like, let's say you have a Capricorn moon and you believe that you have to handle everything on your own. Like you grew up believing that you're worthy if you are able to handle everything on your own. And now you're sort of like revising that, redoing, changing your beliefs. And technology, transportation matters may need attention, right? Like maybe you are traveling more, but those trips are not necessarily fun. Maybe you're traveling for work a lot more. Maybe you're upgrading your technology. In the next 4.5 months, those things could be quite significant for you. For Capricorn rising, Saturn goes retrograde in the 2nd house, so your values and your resources are up for review. And there's a lot of focus for Cap risings on the house of joy and creativity and children and fun. And now Saturn stations retrograde in the second house. So it's a bit of a bummer, but we love Saturn here in my home. So resources, finances, money making things may be more frustrating. There might be more challenges connected to them. Let's say you kind of quit your job in order to find more peace, or you move to a new place, or you like buy a home and you need to be more serious about your spendings, or you're owed money and the money is not coming to you. So you will need to be more serious about your finances and possibly put in a plan of, like, say you are expecting some money, but like, what if you don't get it? Do you have enough to last you through a specific period of time? Or maybe set some money aside, maybe rethink your spendings. Not necessarily the most exciting things, I know, but necessary things. And as a Capricorn rising, hopefully you don't mind that. And your values. There might be questions connected to what truly matters to you. Is it being, let's say, in the town where you know everyone, or is it pursuing opportunities that encourage you that give you a chance to travel and express the creative side of yourself? So that will be important right now too. And maybe you're sacrificing something, or you're not quite sure about your finances, but in the long run, this will end up paying off. Just keep persevering. For Aqua rising, Saturn goes retrograde in your first house. So this could be more frustrating because first house is literally like our initiatives, our physical body, your initiatives, your health, your brand, your project. So there might be delays and blockages connected to that. You may literally experience like a person in your life who is standing in your way, but it's, most likely it's the person that's looking at you in the mirror, where somehow you are standing in your own way. It could be your tendency to be the most responsible one. Maybe you have that tendency to be like the teacher, the guide, or even projecting the image into the world of, I got this. Pay attention to it and how that could be a frustrating thing that's not really helping you. Looking at your fears, looking at where you are too rigid in your approach could be significant right now. Putting in any health practices that benefit you, and being very kind of even almost boring about it, right? Like creating a schedule and sticking to it, making sure you go to bed early, making sure you're working on the project that you're excited about by putting in at least 30 minutes every day, just being very serious about it. And finally, for Pisces rising, Saturn will be retrograding in your 12th house, encouraging you to look at all of your self-defeating notions and your unhealthy habits. So 12th house is the place of losses. It's the place of isolation, spirituality, self-undoing, and Saturn actually loves being in the 12th house. A lot of hard work makes Saturn quite excited. So you will be doing some work, more introspection perhaps than other signs, because 12th house is literally the house of like sitting alone with your mental garbage. So there might be certain things you have to let go of. It might be a relationship, it might be a partnership, it might be an ex that you are somehow still tied to, right? Literally through having a business together, or maybe in your thoughts where you're living already with someone else, but you have this person in the back of your mind. Dealing with mental health, you may be, like there's been a lot of positive energy for many of us, for you especially, with Jupiter being in the first house. And maybe you've been focused a lot on doing and taking action, but not enough on standing still and reviewing and taking care of your mind. nurturing yourself, being quiet, holding yourself, right? So dealing with your mental health, talking to a therapist, talking to a friend, introducing sort of spiritual practice into your life. There might be a sense for Pisces risings that, like, you know, you've been doing so well. There might be a sense of like, I am good, I don't have this problem. And then slowly over the next 4.5 months, almost 5 months, Saturn will be like, you still have to look at this. This is not fully done. And you may get like calls about it, right? It's not necessarily going to be like super direct, but maybe you realize that you're drinking more than you used to. Or you, every day you go to work, you like hate it and it gives you anxiety. And so looking at those things that are not as obvious, not as visible, but also quite important, will be significant. And letting go of certain like addictions, unhealthy behaviors, self-destructive tendencies are a big part of this retrograde for you guys. I hope you're here. I hope you listen till the end. Of course, all Pisces probably are here. Yeah, I wouldn't assume every single one of you to listen to all the signs. But thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.